Grimfrost Podcast. Today's guest is Håkan Altrock, archaeologist, adventurer, and expert in Viking shipbuilding and sailing. Håkan Altrock, welcome to our longhouse.
Oh, thank you.
Great to have you here.
Yeah.
So you're a leading expert on Viking ships. So did you take the ship here? Or?
I wish I could, but no, not this time.
Yeah. If you would take the ship, you would have to go like a really long way around, though, right? You had like Göta Kanal and all that.
Yeah, Göta Kanal didn't exist then.
No.
You had to find some way, but we can take it by land, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, today we have the train and the buses and all that stuff. So, yeah, we're good. So, you've actually built your own several ships, right?
Yeah, a couple of.
And you made it, tons of voyages eastward, especially, just as during the Viking Age with those Viking ships. And we'll come back to that. We'll circle back to that in a little bit. But first, what sparked your interest in Vikings in the first place?
Oh, it's probably my father. He built his own boats, like me now, and we were always out sailing in the summer, every weekend, every week, almost.
Yeah.
So, and he was very interested of this history, and he dragged me along to the Vasa Museum and all kinds of monuments and stuff like that. So I think it's much from him then.
Yeah.
So, and then 1988. Back in the 80s, then I worked at the Sea Historical Museum, and there I come in contact with this big longship, reconstructed Helgelandsskeppet. It's a 23-meter long longship from the early 14th century, and that the first sailing trip with that boat, I remember it still. It's outside Beckholmen in the Stockholm harbor. It's windy, and so sailing like a dinghy, you know, like a small boat.
Yeah.
But it was so big, and I remember it still. So after that, I went sailing with this kind of all the reconstructed boats we had in Sweden at that time. So
your father didn't build Viking ships; he built like his own sailing boats.
Yes, sailing boat.
Yeah, that's cool. So how big step was it then from being an enthusiast of Vikings and sailing these ships to becoming an archaeologist? Was that like a part of what inspired you to become an archaeologist in the first place?
Yes, I made the decision 2002 that I would change my life. Before that, my biggest dream was to live in a Viking house and work with that, totally just that. And everything I worked with was targeted to that dream.
So where did that dream come from? Sorry,
that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It must be quite odd. I don't know a lot of people who have those.
Wow, that's
dreams.
a good question. Yeah, I don't know. It was there. Yeah. You know, sailing all my life and interested in history, and you landed in the Viking Age.
But were you interested in other aspects of Viking life as well? Then not just the sailing, but like craftsmanship,
but especially sailing, of course.
Yeah.
So all the other things come as you go.
Yeah. So it was a big inspiration then for you to become an archaeologist.
2000. Sorry, I'm going on. Continue.
Yeah.
2002, I decided I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to have children. I wanted a house and everything, you know.
Yeah.
So I started to, because I didn't have any degree from the first school back in the 80s. So I had to start to educate myself and go in university and then study to be an archaeologist.
That's pretty impressive, though, to like somewhere, I mean, 2002, it's not that, I mean, it's 20 years ago, and like to make that change, how was that?
Yeah, it was a big change, but I have I was ready for it. I had thought about of it a long time
Oh
before.
yeah, yeah. So it's like a dream that kind of matured for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what about especially, I guess, the Viking Age ship fascinates you so much?
It's mostly. I think it started with this mystery. The Vinland. What kind of ship did they use to go all the way there, and that's or in the east, what kind of boat and how was it there when they went on these trips?
Yeah.
So it's you don't know that it's the unanswered questions about these boats and how they were. Later on you know pretty much about the boat, but in the Viking Age, not so much.
So when did you build your first ship?
It was in December 1997. I started with my 10 meters boat, and at the same time I was participating in building this biggest Viking ship in the world at that time in Årsta in Stockholm, 25 meters Gokstad's ship.
Yeah.
So I picked up the things from there, and I have studied. I knew exactly how to in theory.
Yeah.
And I was a carpenter and before, so it it went well.
But it must be like a very big passion for you, though, to take that step, because there were already a bunch of ships already created. I would assume that you sailed, but did you want to learn like how to build the ship, also from a more experimental archaeology side?
Yeah. And I at that time I still have this dream to go out in the forest with nothing with me and come back with a ship, to learn everything. I have produced iron. I have been the blacksmith, trained to do these tools and even stone tools, everything.
So you made everything from scratch?
Yeah, that's the dream. So I would like to, but not in this case. I didn't do that. But that was that's a dream, long term.
Yeah,
dream,
to be able to do it all the way from scratch.
Yeah. So every kind of craftsmanship that has you have to know to build a boat. That I want to learn.
So how long did it take you to build your first ship?
Well, I thought 6 months. It was I can do this in 6 months, no problem. I built it by myself, and it's a replica of this Gokstad 6 Äring. It's the biggest of the small boats I found on board the big Gokstad ship. So it took 3.5 years, and I was ready to launch it. So a little longer.
So how did that feel then when it finally was in the water?
Well, I thought it would feel like, wow, what a fantastic thing! Finally. But so I have thought about this feeling all the time when I built this boat. When I launched it, wow! But when I did, that's nothing. What am I going to do now?
That's a bit anticlimactic.
Yeah.
So, but how did it feel to sail it for the first time, though? That must have been quite nice, though, right?
Yeah. I imagine it should be, but yes.
Yeah.
It's sailed well, like all these kinds of square sail boats. So
you said you learned by helping out building the reproduction of the Gokstad ship.
Yeah, and I read everything about this.
So, but were there other people you talked to who had experience? Did you discover methods or ways of building ships that weren't really known before, or were building on other people's findings?
Not in this boat. No.
Did you later discover something about building ships that you didn't know before?
it's the best way of doing things. That you haven't read about.
Yeah.
You don't have this description detailed about how you do it, but you have to try with certain kind of this replica tools and think, this is perfect for this thing to do. So yeah, it's a couple of things.
a few small discoveries along the way.
Yeah.
So you built, like, how many ships have you built in total?
No, it's not that many. It's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Viking ship. It's 3. Then I built a modern boat too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So of the Viking ships, like, you built that Kuksta 6 dinghy.
Yes. 10 meters.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. Yeah. But what were the other ships? Can you tell us something about a little about them?
It was this that I mentioned. The biggest. I had to build this biggest at that time, the biggest in the world.
Oh yeah,
25 meters. And then I'm doing. I worked at summer times in 2008 to 10 at Björke, and built a 6-meter Viking boat, completely with the replica tools and splitting the logs and everything. So
that's pretty impressive, though. Yeah. So you did all this, and but how do you learn to sail a Viking ship in general? I mean, it's kind of a lost art, isn't it?
Yeah, but the Danes at the Roskilde, they have sailed this kind of boats for a rather long couple of years, and they have studied this culture in the northern Norway, Nordlandsbåtarna, the Nordlands boats and the Åfjordsbåtar.
Yeah.
It's a fishing boat, small fishing boat, open almost like Viking ships with the square sails.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's well documented how they sail their boats. So you can pick up a lot of things from there, and then you compare it with the archaeologists, also the archaeological material and so on. So they have done a good research about that. But from my part, I learned this first time I sailed this Helgans ship, the Helgans ship, Helgaholm, as it was called, 88. Those they have learned from the Danish, and I learned from them. So pretty soon I became captain on this boat and sailed with that.
But you were, as you said, you grew up on the water, basically sailing with your father, and so you probably had like a lot of basic knowledge. But what would be the main difference sailing a square sail ship compared to a modern day sailing boat?
It's a lot of more rope to control the sail. You have the same front side. It's always the front side on the square sail, and always the back side, and you change the forward edge every time. So it's hard to make a sail that is a good profile to both, and especially when you tack against the wind. And you're sailing close to the wind. It's rather risky because the wind can. This edge of the sail, the forward edge, is rather loose. You have a bowline that can control it a bit, but if you get the wind from the wrong side, that's the normal way to capsize a square sail boat. It's that when the wind came in from the backside, and all the people sitting on the railing to wait up, and then suddenly the wind comes from the other side.
Oh.
Then you capsize that way. That is the correct way, they said before. So that's hard.
So tack against the wind obviously would be difficult with a square sail ship, but it wasn't impossible. I always had the notion that Vikings would sail with the wind and row against it. But do we know if that was the case, or?
I would say that for if I'm sailing a square sail rigged boat, I would do that. it's not funny to tack against the wind. Instead, if you have time, you wait. If you don't have time, you row or you tow it along the land. We did that at the rivers and these big lakes in Ukraine. It's much better because you can attack against the wind about 60 degrees, take and give 5 degrees, but you have a big drift at the side. So it's not you can keep away from lee land when if you have a hard wind against it. So that you can do, but it's not funny to.
No. If you risk capsizing every time you do it,
you always tense and complete a whole day that you get tried.
And you got to keep an eye on the wind as well if it shifts. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about like what different types of Viking Age ships there are and what defines them?
You have this merchant ship, Knarr, for example, and Byrding. Knarr is the big merchant ship, and Byrding is a smaller one. They don't have that many oars. They have a couple of oars in the front of the boat, perhaps another pair in the aft, usually. And they didn't have that many people on crew on board, of course. And the warship, you have this Skeider, these long ships, and you have lots of names in the written sources, but it's hard to put a view on put them on a type of boat. You don't know always, but you have skuta, butsa, you have all kinds of boats, and you have small boats, färing, 4 oars, small boats, and bigger 6 äring, and so on.
Oh, okay. So, but also from when I was a kid, anyways, one thing that we learned was that Vikings going west, they would have big, long ships with like pretty high railings and massive sails, and then the Vikings who went east, they would have smaller ships with a flatter bottom and the ship, a flatter keel, and to be able to sail and navigate the rivers. And would that be true?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
You don't know actually what kind of boat they had in the east. Did they travel all the way on the same boat, or did they exchange boats? Perhaps there are sources that tells you that they bought boats, the bottom part of boats in Kiev, and built some strakes on it, and then went south with it.
Oh, okay.
But you don't know. But it had to be small. I had an expedition, a Norwegian expedition in 1992, the first one I was on in the east, and we had this 16.5 meters Gokstad ship, 2/3 scale.
Yeah.
And it weighed several tons. And we tried to go out up Daugava in Latvia.
Yeah.
And it took us, when we wanted to drag it on land, it took us a whole day to get it on land.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So it's too big. You have to have small boats in the rivers.
We're going to talk a little bit more about your expeditions soon, but we kind of wanted to know a little bit more about the ships in general. So Viking ships obviously in many ways were very successful because our ancestral Vikings, they traveled the world in them. And obviously they're renowned for being fast, and being able to come into land really quickly. And all that stuff. Would you say it's the crew or the construction that made them so successful?
The construction mainly. I think it's you have this when you started to split the logs instead of what do you call it, radial splitting.
Okay.
Like piece of cake. Then you get very flexible and light. You can do these planks very thin, and you can get a very light boat, quick, fast boat, and with shallow draft. That's when the Viking Age started. Some mean, yeah. So
because it's true that even some of the really big ocean ships, if they were long enough, they basically surfed on the waves. So that would make them really, really fast, right?
Yeah, but then you don't want to go too fast either, because you have this. I have experienced almost that when you get with really good speed. The air is they are going under this is clinker built, so you have these edges, and the air is sucked in under the boat, with bubbles under the boat. So it's like what do you call it, vattenplaning?
It's
but
like
with air.
Yeah, it planes on it.
Yeah, so you go with an air cushion, and you can feel the boat is going like this, and you're getting hard to maneuver it, and this, up in North Norway, this culture, Nordlandsbåts culture, they have this method to avoid this.
Okay.
One thing is to stamp with your feet on the lower strakes, the board. The other thing is more dangerous, is to pull out the bottom,
the bottom plug.
Yeah, to get out the air and down with the water from inside and break this. Thing. I have experienced that almost. You can feel it like it's rather annoying feeling in the ship when you get really fast.
Because I think I saw something about this. I think it was actually a ship in Denmark where they sailed this really long ship. I forget what the name was, but it kind of had this thing where it kind of like went like this, the whole construction.
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
No, that is another thing. They are built to give in for the sea.
Okay.
So it's a good thing, but that I think that is Hav Hingston. It was too much like that, so they had to enforce it.
Okay, yeah. So for those of you who are listening to this, what I was doing now is kind of mimicking with my hand, so it moved like a snake on the waves. Yeah. So
if you have this, you can go to the long ship and you can rattle the stem, and it should be doing like this.
Yeah.
If it's good built.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Viking ships are amazing, and you built a couple of them, as we already established. So now to what I think is absolutely amazing. You made some fantastic expeditions in the footsteps, or in the wake maybe, of Vikings. So most of them eastward, if I'm correct.
Yes.
How many voyages eastward did you make?
I did in 1992 this Norwegian expedition from Riga in Latvia to Dnieper into Belarus and Russia, and to Kiev in Ukraine. So it's 1.5 months that journey. Then 1993, I actually went with Helga Holm. It's this medieval ship, but it's a long ship, and we went 2 months to Visby, to the medieval week, and back. So that was, if you have listened to this pod before, when Martin E-Type was here, he talked a little bit of just that, this journey. He was on board then. And then 1994, with the ship Eifor. It was a 9-meter construction. It's owned by Martin. We sailed from Sigtuna to Novgorod through St. Petersburg and Viborg. Took 1.5 months, and then 2 years later we launched the boat at the same place we took it up before. And we sailed over the Ilmen, Holmshav, that Viking probably called it, and Lovat River, and down to Dnieper, and all the way down to Kiev, and further on to Kherson. And then 2004, the people that owned Eifor at that time, they didn't want to continue this expedition. the goal was to continue out in the Black Sea, but it didn't went that way. Several reasons why, but I built my own boat to continue this travel, this journey. In 2004, I launched it in Kherson, or Gammal Svensk By, Nova Kachovka, and I sailed around the Crimea Peninsula and all the way down to Georgia and to the rivers over Caucasus into Azerbaijan and the Caspian Sea. So it took 3.5 months.
That's a massive trip. I mean,
yeah.
So how did you even come up with the idea to do this?
Yeah, that actually was this docent, I don't know in English, but Mats G. Larsson. And he had Ingvar the Far-Traveled, Ingvar the Wittfarne.
Yeah.
Which way he went to Serkland, we don't know, but Mats have a theory that he went through Caucasus, and that is the way I was following with this boat.
So you kind of wanted to test this if it was possible at all.
Yeah, because there is a Icelandic saga about this Ingvar the Far-Traveled, and I would like to compare the sagas. It's described the terrain around the rivers. For example, I would try to see if it was the same.
Doesn't that look very different today?
Yeah, not in Georgia. It's like the old time still there, but in many ways. But of course, it have changed a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is 1,000 years ago. So
yeah. But you still have this. It says in the saga that they sailed for several days when the mountains was closing over their heads almost. They sailed in darkness, and it was almost like that in this Cheremella, the last river before we went over the mountains.
So what was the main that was like the main goal then, to recreate the journey of Ingvar the Far-Traveled?
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts, like any other goals with this expedition, like regarding the ships and how that worked?
Yeah, to test the type of boat. As I told you, I reconstructed this Gokstad boat, a small one. Was that a suitable boat for this kind of river travel? I would like to test that, and I would like to learn even more about the techniques to go on the rivers and on land and test all different methods for that. And then the contact with the scientists, archaeologists from Georgia. So it could be we made a cooperation with the Swedish archaeologist and Georgian.
So what specific traits did the Gokstad boat have that made you think it would be possible to sail it on the rivers?
It's the good size.
Yeah.
And it weighs 400 kilos.
Oh, so that's not a lot.
Yeah.
How long is it?
It's 975, so 10 meters.
Yeah.
And the crew, about eight people, can actually carry it with the ropes under the keel and over your shoulders. You can carry it. And that is also mentioned in the saga.
Oh, okay.
It's just this combination with the boat that are suitable for traveling on the rivers, not that deep. It should be shallow and light and everything, and good to row. But it should also be a good boat for sailing along the coastlines. So this combination, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
If you suppose that they use the same boat.
Yeah.
But we don't.
So yeah, that's interesting actually, carrying the boat with ropes. Because like the image I had in my head is from when I was a kid again. When you learn about this, is that they put down like timber logs and dragged the ships.
We did
over.
that too. Yes.
So
it depends on what the terrain is and how long. And so.
But how does that work? All right, now I'm really curious here, because if you travel to Serkland or Eurasia, and then like to Miklagård and you bring home loot or like goods or whatever. So then you have to carry the goods as well.
Yeah, it's
going to be heavier going back, I assume.
Yeah, but that you have in these written sources too. When they pass the Dnieper rivers, you first take if it was the load or the boat, some of the boats over, and then you go back and get. So you have to go twice.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Or you rent some horses maybe to.
We rented the oxes because we had to go 5 miles, 50 kilometers over the mountains and up to 1,150 meters height. So we rented 2 oxen to pull the boat. We felled a tree, a acacia tree. And then we made the underside flat, and we made it grow in the upper part, and put the boat on the log. And then the oxen pulled the log, and we went along on the sides to keep the balance.
Oh, so, that's smart. So,
it's an old Norwegian method I read about somewhere in there. So it went well.
That makes sense. That makes real sense. So, well, I mean, this is just an extraordinary expedition, I would say. But like, how do you even plan for such a big trip? I mean, given it's in 3 parts, but still.
Yeah, you have. It's a problem with this modern day man. Of course, people need to get home, and they can perhaps 2 weeks. That's my intention was to get the crew that was came along all the way, 3.5 months. I did that. I got 3 others to make all the trips, the whole trip. But the other have to change, and that is the big problem. You have visas in this country, and everything should be fitted with the planes and train and everything. So that's a problem. And of course the home transport home. We didn't drove back home. Next time perhaps, but we have to have finance for that and sponsors and so on. So it's a lot of planning.
But it's like, how do you find the crew? How big was the crew? Is that, you said like 8 or 9 people, or?
Yeah, we had 9 people and the cameraman. We did Vetenskapsmagasinet was interested when we talked to them, and they filmed. We did this trainings in Gysinge in Dalälven, and in the Stockholm archipelago. So we tested the boat and the crew, the people who wanted to go with us. And they came up and filmed and did a program about that. And after that, it was no problem to get people to volunteers. But we had to test them. Test them first, of course. So we did, and well.
How was that then? Like, so you have 9 people who start the journey. By the end of the journey, those people must have some kind of, well, like when they're ready to leave, they must be like actually quite experienced, and then a new group of people, 6 more people come on.
Yeah.
And then they have to start like learning the ropes.
That is the problem. But we had four of us was all the way.
Oh, okay.
So
it was easier that way. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like you had to change the entire crew like every 2 weeks or something.
No, that would have been
yeah. So but just plan, when I'm saying like planning the trip, I mean, obviously you have to take into consideration like what the risks are, what the dangers are. So like, what kind of risks and dangers and like unexpected things? Well, I mean, if you can't really plan for unexpected things, but like you have to take a lot of thoughts into consideration. So how do you do that?
Yeah, we experienced. I have experienced a couple of things that was not so nice on this travel before. So Yeah, we one of these things. It is that we have to have a night watch every night. Everyone in the crew has to go 1 or 2 hours every night, and then to guard the boat. That was one thing we learned, or I learned from former expeditions. We had been robbed, we had been shot at, and tried to close the area and demand money from us and everything. So we have to be prepared for that. And,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess like in the 90s, like going on like in Russia and the eastern part of Europe, that was I know from like people I talked to like in touring bands and stuff that it could be like quite hazardous, but then you're at least on land and you have like a bus and you have all that stuff, but like when you're on an open ship, you must feel a bit like left out in a way.
Oh, it's I think on the river it was a little bit worse because we couldn't make any moves or something like that because they know where we are. They just follow the rivers and so that was and it's easy to follow us if they want to. The first one when they robbed us, it was at night, and they probably had followed us for quite a while because the only night when we didn't have watch, then they made the move. So, but on the river, on the sea, it's yeah, we was sailing rather close to the shore all the time, but that gave us another problem. That's the border military, or what you call them. They have this watch cabins all around Crimea. This is Ukraine, and every time they saw us, they called us in because we had this what do you call it? Radio, yeah. They called us in because they was interested. What are we? What are you? So we had to go in, and we had to get the stamps, and the officers had to be there and everything, and then we can go again, and then a couple of kilometers too. Then get in. You know, our interpreter Vasily, he actually dropped this radio accidentally in the water.
Okay.
And then it was good, but
that was quiet for a while.
But we had a visit with these bureaucrats with the suits and ties. They come with the port, this bag along along this shoreline, long what do you call it? Out in the where it was nothing, no city,
middle of nowhere.
Yeah, middle of nowhere. It's just because they wanted their stamps. We have to. Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
You had a passport full of stamps at the end.
Yeah, and the paper. And Vasily, he was thrown into jail one time because we went into Yalta's harbor without asking, without stamps, and without paying lots of hundreds of dollars, and so, and they try to make everything to that we should pay, and this you have to get stamped when you get into the harbor and pay this broker lots of money because to get out again, it was rather.
So those things are really hard to plan for. I must imagine.
Yeah,
because you can't really expect that. Well.
No, we didn't pay. It went well anyway. But they tried with everything. They had you have to have a permission to carry the Swedish flag they invented. But no, we don't. Yes, you okay? Then we put it down. We don't have the flag. And then you're a pirate. And then we go. You cannot win.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So. Going back then to the first part of this 3-part expedition, what can you tell us about like the start of it?
that part of it was it was rather idyllic. It was good wind, sun, and the most demanding part was to. I read the logbook afterwards. It was someone wrote the most demanding thing was to wave at every boat that they were waving to, because everyone knows what we had been in papers and TV and everything before. So it was probably just sailing with the wind. It went very well until we got to St. Petersburg and the Russian border. And we had this map, this sea chart, where it was a small military area in the outside St. Petersburg, and I avoided that area very thoroughly. But when we get nearer to St. Petersburg, this destroyer, big ship, came along and then put a small boat in the water, and an officer and men with guns, they are coming to us. They want stamps, and they are really pissed off because we have sailed through a military area, a big military area. No, we don't. It's not on the chart, but it was the wrong chart. They said, and everything, and it was jail and everything they threatened us with. But we had good signs from what do you call it, signatures from big people, in St. Petersburg. So it went well. But after that, they realized they couldn't get money from us or anything. That they made a turn with the boat and rammed us in the side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Holy crap!
It didn't make any harm. So then they went away and let us. It's crazy. We read in the papers just a week before they had rammed a Finnish sailing boat at the same area.
Oh, wow.
Or up in the Viborg, they were going Saimaa Canal.
So that's insane. But
yeah,
I guess that is part of one of the difficulties going through countries like Russia, and because it's always a lot of under the table payment and you should have had a couple of bottles of vodka with you. It's like, here.
Yeah. It was way too much.
Yeah, I know. So, it's a big trip. I mean, you went to as far as Novgorod, anyways.
Yeah, the first
one. So, what were the major obstacles on this journey apart from getting rammed by Russian authorities?
The river Neva was. We have been warned. We were warned. Rather often, but for this river, it was 8 knots current against us. No boat with that hasn't got an engine. It's impossible, they said. So, but we had luck. We went. We put up the mast and we rowed with every rower. And when we got to this place where it's a rather hard current, and put the sail up, and we had rather some thunder wind, thunder. Then you got a good wind, and then we managed to get through that because it was the sides. What normally we threw a rope into land, and then several of the crew towing the boat from land. But at that point, we couldn't go on land at all. Oh. It was too many.
But so you basically had full sails and everybody rowing.
Yeah, and near just that we
made it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then Ladoga, that was a funny lake, Lake Ladoga. Yeah. We sailed. We tried to sail over it. We almost lost sight of land because it's a very low land, but several kilometers out on sea, and it was like this deep. I have a picture when we are bathing and walking around the boat when we cannot see land around us. It's so shallow.
A very shallow lake.
And that means that we couldn't go over that day because it started to blow. The wind started to Yeah, and then the rivers rise
the
very
waves
quickly.
rise. Yeah, okay.
So we waited until the night, and then we could. It was a little bit less wind. Could sail over.
Smaller waves. Oh, I get it. Oh, wow. So, it's such a big lake. You would expect it to be like a little bit deeper, but okay.
No, it's in the southern part. It's rather.
Yeah. So, like, how was it like to weather-wise? Like what kind of gear did you have? Did you have like authentic Viking clothes, or did you actually have modern?
No, not on this expedition. No, we have modern clothes.
So, but you like you had a radio. Did you also have GPS?
No, not on this this time. We don't even have the mobile phones. I think it came next year. Yeah, but no, we.
So apart from the clothes, then it was basically like going like Vikings.
Yeah, I didn't even have a tent with me. I was always sleeping on the oars and with the sail over me, and I had this because I had to breathe. I had to have my arm like this, and then this the sail was here, and every morning the mosquito had always. It was lots of mosquitoes in Ladoga.
I can imagine, yeah. So was that how everybody slept, or did you say some had tents? Yeah,
most had tents, but I have been on the expedition, the Norwegian, the 1992, the year 2 years before. I didn't have a tent there. No one had a tent on that expedition. We just slept in this haystacks and under the sail and on the bare sky. So it was a magical trip.
I can imagine. Otherwise, you often see like maybe that's like a modern depictions of Viking ships with kind of like roofs on them.
Yeah,
but is that something that you used, or?
No, it's a problem with you when you're sailing. It takes wind, and when you're rowing, that's also so. If you have wind, I remember this 25 meters long ship I was building in Årsta. We sailed it to Halmstad through Copenhagen, and in Öresund it was a really thunderstorm and everything. And I remember it was raining. I had 2 shields over me. That was all I had to cover myself. And I think, shit, if this lightning hits the shield boss.
Could have been sparks flying there. Huh?
Yeah. But, you were young then. So.
Yeah. So, like, were you ever afraid during this trip? I mean, were the apart from getting rammed, I assume that must have been kind of terrifying when they did that. But
it was mostly mad. I was afraid. Yeah, it's on the next stage, the 1996, when they got the shoot in the with the gun.
Yeah, that could have been scary.
Yeah, it was a rather special experience.
So, like, what other fun or like insane, crazy stories do you have from the first part of the expedition? Like, was there anything like exceptionally like interesting that happened?
The first 1994, it was a rather enjoyable journey.
Yeah.
We didn't row that much. On Volkhov and Neva, but otherwise it was sailing all the time. So it was 1996 then.
Yeah. So what did you learn from the first expedition? Like, was it something that you went like, I did not expect this to be like this? Like,
no, actually the first year was. Not that much.
Pretty much what you expected.
That was a surprise.
Yeah. So then you, as you said, you went back then to do the 1996 second leg of the expedition. And you said you had the same ship. It was the I-4 ship.
Yeah.
So like what lessons could you bring to that expedition from the first one?
The first one, you have to remember, I've been sailing these kind of boats before, so we didn't learn that much on the first leg. But we went to, me and Rune Edberg was the scientific leader of this expedition. We went before 1995 to reckon, to look at the rivers to see if it was possible and how long we can go, how far. And we thought it looked rather good. There's no problem. So when we got on the journey then, 1996, it was not like that. I can't tell you. It was this river Lovat. It's a very hard river, very shallow, very many rapids and so. So no. Probably, and the archaeologists in Russia, they say on the Viking age it was even lower water in the rivers, so up to a meter lower. So yeah, it's a question if you really use that river with boats normally. Okay. So
are there other rivers in that area that they could use instead, or? Yeah,
but. Hardly. If you're going to Dnieper, to Volga, you can do that. But probably some rivers, but they are also very shallow. But they have this theory in Russia that it was a winter with sleighs, on the river, frozen rivers.
Oh, okay. That could make sense. Yeah, because the Vikings would be away for years.
Yes.
Yeah. So they could probably do that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. But so was it otherwise the same crew basically, or did you have new people coming onto that one?
Yeah, it was we changed crew every week or second week.
But did some come back from the first expedition, or did you have?
Yeah. Yes, they did. But it was some of the crew wasn't really prepared for what they signed up for, I think. So it was
especially with the gunfire, I assume.
Yes, that exactly. But it was very hard rowing and going in the rivers,
So how does that affect morale then among the crew when it's like that difficult? Did people lose temper, or like? I mean, it's a tight group, but like you kind of assume it would happen.
Yeah, we on this river. I was on this expedition 94 and 96. I was the captain on board, but the crew. The owner of the boat chose crew, and they put in their own friends and so on. And there's no training and no testing before. So we have some like this. Actually, the last stage in Ukraine, it was really, really hard. So it was we have 3 of the crew was a pair, a woman and a man. One of them have been married for 13 years. It broke.
Oh, they split up.
Yes, because of that.
Oh, wow.
Of this, it was very hard. I'm not going into that too much, but we in the expedition after that I was planning with my own boat and everything and testing people and everything. We had this. Before it happened, almost we have this counseling. We talked it through really quick and everything. Everyone was motivated, and so
that must make a huge difference.
Yes,
yeah,
it did.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you can assume if you're just thinking it's going to be like a nice adventure.
Sitting there and experience it.
Yeah, I have to say though, I would actually be surprised if somebody thought that, because in my mind it sounds like it would be extremely hard work.
Yeah,
even if you're like have luck with the wind.
Yes, you should think that. That's normal. Yeah, but
so like what I forgot to ask this, like what did you do about food for this? Because obviously it's a Viking ship. It's 9 meters long. You're 8 people who have to eat and drink, and you have to carry it with you. But there is no electricity, no refrigeration. No. It's summertime.
Yeah, we have on the most expedition we have a following car, so we cheated a little bit there because that person he can go and buy things, and then we have room for food for about, this is modern food, for perhaps 2 days, 3 days at most in the boat. But some it happened often that we didn't have this car for a month or so on, and then especially on this Norwegian expedition and the last one with in my boat. Then we have to we stop when we see traces of a village, or we see a village, and we go up and we talk to them, and we can always buy things, and they are always very friendly. We are coming with dirty clothes and everything, and of course. So and water, we have sometimes we have to go really far to fetch water, drinkable water, and
because the rivers of Russia, I mean, I wouldn't drink that water probably.
No.
Because especially after the Soviet era, they must have been very polluted, most of them, I would assume.
Yeah. No. We have to be careful with these diseases.
Exactly. I mean, even if you boil it would be difficult, I guess.
Yeah. We in this Norwegian expedition, it was 92, and we are passing Maglev and also this Chernobyl cloud. It was mostly over there, and we have this guy
after 6 years. That's insane.
So there I was. We all got totally, with the sick in the stomach, and it was the worst experience I ever had. I can tell you that.
That's crazy. But was that because of the Chernobyl cloud?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But this Russian crew member, he boiled some tea with these flowers and that is pizza, and it should help you. He said, and I drank it because I don't even care about this with this radioactive. No.
Oh, okay. So did it help?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, you're still here, so
no, I'm not glowing in the dark either. I actually passed Chernobyl twice with a rowing boat, so I have no cancer
yet. All right. Well, that's good. Well, they say actually, especially nowadays, the radiation is more in the soil. You shouldn't dig in the soil.
No.
Well, that's it. That's for another podcast talking about Chernobyl, but it's crazy. So on this second expedition, then, like you told us already about the getting shot at, but what do you know about that? Was that people trying to rob you, or?
Yeah, it was. We have, as I told you, we have a watch every night, and suddenly it was 3:00 at night, and suddenly we heard a gunshot from the river. We were lying exactly at the border between Belarus and Russia. And it was 2 men in a boat, and they had a gun, and the watch waked us up, everyone, and it was decided that we some of us was to confront them, and some of us was hiding in the tents, and they came up on the slope up to the camp site, and it was 2 men. The one had this gun, and they probably they didn't want to wake us up, but this gunshot went off with a mistake. It's a mistake. So they started to. They were drunk, of course. They wanted to party with us and everything, and it went. It was not a nice conversation, if I tell you that. And suddenly he started to fire the gun between the tents, and like this. And it was a gun you have to
you have to cock it every time.
Yeah, okay. and he went we were 3 guys around him, me and 2 friends, and all the other was in the tent. They didn't see this. And when the 3rd shot went off, and he pointed at our stomachs too, and we had to point that away. And after the 3rd shot, one woman in the tent, she thought we had been shot, every 3 of us, because there were 3 shots.
Oh.
So she went berserk. She rushed out to them and started to yell at them in Swedish, really like angry, and get the fuck out of here. She was in shock,
Yeah.
And they okay. They went away. They are going to. They told us we are going to the bar or it's some kind of house with. It was a old village, and then we come back, and then we are going to party. So we're going to get vodka. Yeah, and they went away,
and then never came back.
Yeah, they came back.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, but then it was my turn to stand and watch. So we decided I would stand at the fireplace, which is open fire, so they can see me. And see that we have a guard, we are not sleeping, everyone, and all the others are going to hide in the tents with bottles and the tear gas spray and everything ready. So I sat there and okay, yeah, let's see how this is going to. And the first thing I hear out in the darkness, it's this.
The cocking of the gun. Yeah, okay.
And then I hear, I don't know if they are getting some friends or,
Yeah.
I think we are rich Westerner in their eyes, and so they are coming, they went just beside me going, they saw me, but I didn't look at them, I just sat there, and I just waited for this gunshot, but they went on down to the boat. They stole our, this Frälsarkrans, this life buoy.
Oh, the buoy, yeah.
And they went, so they had something anyway, and they went away. And then actually they sat. We saw that the next morning. They had been sitting on the other side and watching us until the light in the sun rose. Because, to see if we are going to bed or watch, and then the next village downstream we went to the day after. They knew what kind of people that was. It was this convicted, this crooks. It was really not good people.
Not good people. No.
So they offered to go up and beat them up, but no. We are going like in a river. They know where we are. So no, it's okay.
Just leave it.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no need to ruffle their feathers more than that.
No.
I'm actually surprised she managed to scare them off. That's a.
Yeah, it was her. The Russians told us in the next village that if that was a guy doing that, he would have been shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was a girl, a woman.
A woman. Oh, wow.
And then
Yeah, yikes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So then you finished that leg of the journey. You went as far as Kherson.
Kherson, yes.
Yeah. The old gamla svensk, the old Swedish village.
Yeah, it's two days rowing to Kherson from gamla svensk.
Yeah.
To 3.5 months journey.
Yeah. So, like, did you like how was that final leg of the trip? Did you like encounter anything close to that again, or?
No, not on that expedition. Then mostly we made friends with everybody. Yeah. So
was that the part of the trip where you had to go in every like few kilometers to get your passport stamped?
No, that's the next.
That was the next one. Okay.
Then it was Artek, this pioneer village in Crimea. There we had the next encounter, but it was no shots fired.
Okay. So you went back for as you said, the third one in 2004. That's almost 8 years.
I had to build the boat first, and the boat was the reason for me to build this boat. It was actually to make this journey.
So when you went on to build the boat, what of the experiences that you had from the previous expeditions went into building it? Like what did you think about, especially when constructing the boat? Because you must have had some ideas of what you would be up against.
It needed to be lighter than Eiffel. Eiffel was too heavy. She was 9 meters long and weighed 800 kilo. This boat was 975 and weighed 400 kilo with the rig. So
wow, that's a big difference.
Yes, I wanted a boat that could sail along the coastline and to easily be dragged or carried up on the beach for the night, because the Black Sea coast of Ukraine and Crimea is mostly sand beaches. So if you got a storm, you have to get it up.
Yeah.
So and to manage the rivers in Georgia, because 1995 also I went with this Matski Larsson and then looked in Georgia to reckon the rivers, and Eiffel wouldn't have made it farther.
Oh wow,
too deep.
So would a lighter boat also be easier to row in like a stream, like in a streamy waters?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was also like a
and you can. It's not that deep.
Yeah,
it's shallow.
It's more shallow. Yeah, but so you constructed this boat, and did you build it by yourself, or did you enlist the guys, the crew members on it? Or?
No, I built it myself.
You built it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you went back in there, then, did you have the same crew coming back?
No.
It was a completely new crew.
Yeah, it was because. I have some, of course. I know I've been sailing these kinds of boats for a long time. So many of my friends, of course, but I knew what they was made of, what they can do, and so I didn't have to test them too much. But all the others, we had tested them and the boat, of course.
Yeah. So none of the previous ones who were in the previous ones, like, I really want to be a part of this.
No, it was too long ago, and they didn't. They actually wasn't that interested of to do Viking Age or boats, and also,
So going from Gamla Svenskby and Kherson, then you already said like one of the obstacles are that you need to get the boat out of the water in the Black Sea. In case of storms, and you need to be able to row the rivers of Georgia, and because they're, I guess, extremely streamy
shallow.
Yeah, shallow. So what other things were the main obstacles going through these countries, or would you say?
Yeah, it's the permit to get through Russia, for example. I don't think they are used to small boat traveling close to the shoreline They normally you if you have a sailing boat, you go into the harbor, you pay and get the stamp, and then you go out and sail, and then go into next harbor, like in northern Germany. So, but we have to go crawling around close to the shoreline, and I don't think they were very interested in that, the Russians. So it was much negotiations with them to get the permit to get into their land. And then you have Abkhazia, the Russian occupied part, or part of Georgia. It was a war zone. So but
how did you navigate that then?
Yeah, we didn't get permit to launch the boat to go around Abkhazia. We have to go around and cheat there. We have to load the boat on a ferry and go around it to Georgia.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, I mean, we have trained that coastal sailing enough anyway. So
yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, going in a small Viking ship like through a war zone.
Yeah, but we had contact with the UN personnel there, and they said it wouldn't be any problem. But the Russians, no. But in Georgia, we had other problems. It was this, they are very friendly, that's to say the least, to strangers. And so we have, and they have this old tradition, this supra. It's the dinners, the parties. They like to eat and drink lots of wine. And then you always have a tamada, a toastmaster.
Okay.
And if you have to, before you drink, you have to talk. You have to. He has to give permissions. Yes, you can drink, and then he has or she has to stand up and make a speech, and then you have to get all the wine down and everyone, and then it fills up again. And that's like all the time. You have 2,000 special toasts in a certain order if it's a really fine supra. But it doesn't matter. You can toast for world peace and lots of children and so on. But that was, I think it was about every third day or so. They came down this village when we were traveling through Georgia with tables and food and drinks and everything. And now we are going to have a supra, and we have to stop and we have to, eat and drink and then So and then the day after, you have to work in the river again and towing the boat and rowing. With the head
hungover and
So and you don't have an excuse if you don't have this pills. That with prescription that you cannot drink with these pills. That's a good thing if you go into Georgia.
Get some medicine, a doctor's prescription. I see. Yeah. I hear you.
So it's that was many of us said that was the most hard part of the Georgian the stage.
So they have. Sorry, I have. This is really interesting. So they have like 2,000 different toasts they can pull out of the hat.
Yeah, and
you didn't have to do all 2,000, right?
No. If it is a really fancy dinner, you have this in a certain order.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh wow! I can imagine that would be really difficult. Like after a long day of rowing, and then you go and you have this big party. You get drunk. You're having a good time, and then the next day you're gonna feel like. Yeah. Oh wow! Yeah,
and then they are still drinking from horns. These silver horns, special drinks. These Vachtanguri drink toasts.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
So, what this whole circling back to the idea behind this 3-part expedition was to recreate the Ingvar the Far Traveled's journeys. So, what conclusions did you reach after each and after the whole thing? Would you say did you come up with some new insights into how these journeys were done?
Yeah, we learned. We learned a lot about more techniques, how to go through these rivers. And the boat type of boat was rather good, I would say, for this kind of journey. This land over the Lichi mountain with this oxen and it went very well. And actually we have this. Gunilla Larsson was a part of this expedition's scientific part, and she actually found some, because in the saga it says Ingvar and his men, they were participating in a battle. It was a civil war in Georgia, and then they went back, and then the disease probably. I don't know. It's some kind of disease, and struck them, and the most of them died along this way back. And actually, she identified what she thinks is some mounds. These burial mounds.
Wow.
Exactly like in the middle of Sweden. And she went down and made an expedition to dig this mounds, and she found some iron and then burned bones and so. But it's so she couldn't date them.
Oh, okay.
Sorry to say.
So it's hard to tell, but
yeah.
it is possibly.
It could be.
Wow.
That's
really interesting.
They are still there.
So would it be possible? Like I assume there are lots more to excavate archaeologically. Are there any plans for that? Do you know?
No, we or Gunilla almost made this cooperation with the Georgian scientists and archaeologists, but I don't think it's in the near future now.
Yeah, will be super interesting though to see. Yeah.
And then the last we another thing we found out, it was the time when you are going to pass the different obstacle, the different hard parts of the river. That they in the saga and the Jordan Chronicle they put the Varyagi in Bashi. It's a small village near Kutaisi in the western Georgia, and I wonder why in Bashi. It's nowhere. But when we sail there, it's we have no problem to getting the boat up to Bashi, but from Bashi it was really hard. So it could be a reason to why they were stationed there.
Oh, that's interesting.
And there are other things like that. So,
yeah. Did you come across any other archaeological sites that could be of interest on these journeys, or are those the main ones in Georgia?
That's the main one.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Would you want to go back on such a journey?
Well, I'm in my 50s, so now I have another expedition I want to.
Oh, like another dream one?
Yeah, that is not that extreme.
Okay, what would that be?
I would like to make a dugout canoe, with when you put on these strakes and get it higher, and so because that's a theory that they used that kind of boats on the rivers. I would like to try it in Sweden on several of these and an expedition, perhaps Dalälven or somewhere.
Right. Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah,
a little bit, maybe not as adventurous to go on a trip in Sweden.
after this expedition, I actually we had this cameraman from the Swedish television with us on this expedition. So it was a documentary in 2005. His last question to me is, well, what are you going to do now? And I answered, well, I think I would like to build a knarr and sail to Vinland. So after that, I started to build a knarr. I started to build a knarr, but then I got a barn in Sturehof in Botkyrka, and I started to build with friends and so. But then the economy went. They raised the rent and so much that I couldn't be there anymore. So, but I have been digging in Nova Scotia after in the search of Vinland too. So so it was a combination there. But the sailing, it won't happen. I'm sorry.
So you don't think it would be possible in the future?
No, I don't think that. I have a family and everything. Someone else can do that.
But it's kind of a dream project, I guess.
Yeah. Still, we are still going out, over there and searching for the right place with Mats Larsson.
Yeah. So. Speaking of which, I forgot to ask you actually. You have all these dream expeditions, and you so you went on this 3-part expedition. What did it feel like when you finally arrived? Because you went all the way to the Caspian Sea, right?
Yeah.
That must have been like such a tremendous sense of achievement to actually make it there after all these things you went through. Yeah,
you would imagine that. I think it was a little bit like when I launched the boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We came about 300 meters from the Caspian Sea, and then we have to stay put in 1 week because we have to have our stamps and our permission, and there was so much negotiations and everything, and then we finally we could row out on the Caspian Sea, and we had 1 day sailing on the Caspian Sea, and then the time has flown away, so we had to go back. But we got 1 day, but I think it's so much around when you have to...
So much red tape and crap. Yeah. It kind of ruins the moment. Yeah. Oh, man, that sucks. Yeah. But it I still think...
But afterwards, you can think back.
Exactly. And you made it all the way.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's actually now when I'm trying to write a book about it, all my travels. I nearly finished. But when I read it, what I write, then it was pretty awesome.
That's great. Well, looking forward to reading that book. Actually, that's going to be very exciting. Yeah. So, what other projects, or other, like, I guess the Vinland journey is not going to happen, as you said, but you have that dugout canoe journey, and you have your books. But do you have any other projects lined up for the future, archaeologically or adventurously? I have become I have a house on the Birka, and it takes a lot of time to have an old house from the 16th century. I don't know. It's old. But I'm building on my small boat, a 6 meters long Viking boat that I haven't finished yet. I'm going to build that in this Kulturarvsdagarna in September outside the Museum of Wrecks. Oh, okay. So if you're in Stockholm,
yes,
you can come watch you build that boat. Fantastic.
So that's my goal. Actually, I built it because to my daughters when she was going to in the 4th grade. My plan was to have it finished then, because then you study the Viking age. But she is 21 now. So.
Yeah, as you learned from your first boat, it always takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, a lot of times longer.
All right, such interesting. You could talk a lot more about this, but we kind of have to round it off. But I wanted to end with a couple of questions that we always ask our guests, and I think since you watched the episode with Jim Hansen, I think you know what they are, maybe. But anyways, the first one is, if you could be like a fly on the wall back in the Viking age, what would you like to experience? What would you like to see happening?
I would like to be a fly on the wall in Novgorod or in Kiev to see what kind of boats they was traveling with on the rivers. That's one thing. I would like to join the Vinland expedition to Finkarlshamn, perhaps see where is it.
that would be amazing. I think actually both of them would be amazing, but I think Vinland for some reason, for me anyways, is one of those like stories that is absolutely incredible. How they made it all the way over to North America, across the Arctic Ocean. That's
absolutely
crazy. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. That would be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
So that brings us to another question. Would you have liked to live back in the Viking Age?
Yes. If you had asked me that question before 2002, when I redirected my life, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not naive, but I think I have should answer yes then. But now, no,
not so much.
No.
Well, that is actually kind of interesting, because only 2 people have said yes before. One is Farah Vida Vuklas. The other one is Jim Hansson, who was here last month. And then
I'm in good company.
now you said yes as well, with a little side note. Back in the time. I totally respect that. Personally, I think it would have been tough to live in the Viking Age. But then again, as we mentioned before, if you were born in the Viking Age, you wouldn't really know anything else.
No. You get used to it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming here and talking to us about your adventures and about building ships. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. And as I said, looking forward to reading your book when it comes out.
Yeah.
It's great to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, check out our other episodes on our YouTube channel, Spotify, and other podcast streaming services. And also, subscribe to support our work. Thanks for listening.